Hello, everyone. Yes, I see that more and more people are joining. We will wait for a minute or so that everyone joins. Great. Good to have all of you here. We will just wait for a few more moments so that everybody who is interested can join and not miss the most important part of the talk. Great. So it's time and let's start. Good evening. Good evening. Yes. So, welcome everyone to this session on very interesting topic called as the holistic nutrition based on the Ayurvedic principles. My name is Vaidya Rakesh. Vaidya is a Sanskrit term for a physician. So, I am an Ayurveda doctor. I am basically from India and I have been working in Europe since 2017. So I have learned Ayurveda for 5.5 years, the bachelor's degree I studied in India. And then I did my MD, which is for 3 years in the Ayurvedic herbology. And I have been working as a lecturer, but then I started teaching Ayurveda and giving talks about Ayurveda and personal consultations also. So I see some nice messages, um, some good afternoon messages from New York because we have a small world family everywhere. So it's good. And as you can see the message here that we are on the webinar mode and everyone is muted. So please feel free to write your questions in the Q&A section. It directly comes to me and I will answer your questions. So without any delay, let us start with the topic. So today's topic is Ayurvedic holistic nutrition, and we are going to have three main topics, subtopics in this. First is Ayurvedic view on nutrition. Now, many of you must be thinking, what is Ayurveda? Maybe some of you already know it. If you know it, please write it down in the chat that you're familiar to Ayurveda. If you're not, then you just say that I'm not. If you're familiar, maybe you can write yes. If you're not, you say no, so that I know how many of you are new here. Then we are going to see how to get the best results from food which is based on Ayurvedic principles and common mistakes that you make in your diet and how you can correct them. Yes, I go to Ayurvedic doctor in New York City. I'm familiar with it, somewhat familiar, especially with the massages. Yes, some are saying no, but it's perfectly fine. The word Ayurveda could be a bit sounding alien to you, but it's not, the principles are not very new for us. But we will see what exactly Ayurveda is. Now, you must have heard about traditional Chinese medicine. Yeah. So Ayurveda is the traditional Indian medicine. So uh, thousands of years ago, it dates back to even 5,000 years ago, that the Ayurvedic knowledge was practiced in India. And since then, it has been mainstream health science for India. And what exactly is Ayurveda? The word Ayurveda is made up of two sub terms. Ayu means life, and Veda is a science. So it is the science or the knowledge of the life itself. Now, what exactly is your life? When you think about life, what does come to your mind? Can you please write it down? When I say your life, so consider yourself. And what are the aspects of your life which you cannot separate or which are a part of your life? Yes, vitality, thank you, energy, and can we say body? Yes, the body, yes, spirit, yes, freedom, thank you, nutrition. Then with the body, what all things come? Mind, very good, rejuvenation. So we have found three things, no? Soul, body, mind, and there is one thing which connects all these things, which are senses. So Ayurveda considers a person as a combination of body, mind, soul, and senses. So it gives a holistic way of looking at your life and at your health. Ayurveda is based on the universal laws of the nature. Now you must be thinking that, okay, he is talking about Ayurveda so much, but what it has to do with me? Is that a question for some of you? Maybe yes. So I will, the same question is asked to me many, many places that what is the significance of Ayurveda for me? And how is it important for me? Now, if you want to, yeah, think about something which is very practical, like if you are, yeah, you're driving a car, your car, and suddenly one day you start seeing a very dark black smoke coming out of your car, the exhaust. And what do? Do you just go and plug it, saying that, okay, this is very black, let me put a filter there, and then I will drive, then the smoke is not black. But that is not the solution. The solution would be to take the car to the mechanic and check what is the problem exactly. And then we correct the problem, and then the car works properly. So this is the holistic way of thinking. Rather than just working on the symptom, working on the root cause or seeing the person as a whole. Or second example is you are, or somebody is feeling sad, or somebody is having pain somewhere in the body, and then because of the pain, the person is crying, and you see the tears in the eyes. What do? We just wipe the tears. Is it going to help? Not really. What helps is to work on the root cause of the pain. When the pain is gone, automatically the tears are gone. So this is what Ayurveda is. And it is based on universal principles like the water. When I hold a glass of water and when I tilt it, the water goes down. So it is the nature of the water to flow down. It has been like that since, I don't know, time immemorial. And wherever you are on this planet, the water will go down. Even in the future, it will go down because of the gravity. Same with the fire. When you light a candle, the flame, it goes up always. Even if you hold the candle upside down, where the flame goes, it goes up. Yes. So that is the nature of the fire. So these are the universal laws of the nature, and Ayurveda is based on it. So that is why it is relevant to us even now, relevant to everyone, because it is irrespective of the time and the place. So again, the question, why Ayurveda? Because again, it gives us a holistic way of understanding ourselves. No? The first step towards holistic health is to know yourself. How many of you are here because you are expecting something related to your health? How many of you are like, okay, I want to be healthy, I want to follow a healthy diet, nutrition, and then I want to give a try to what Ayurveda says about it? You can just say me, or you can say yes, or you can just, yeah, share your thoughts in the chat. So you are here because it makes more sense to you to see the things from a broader perspective, doesn't it? So this is what Ayurveda brings. It brings a broader perspective. Now, before we move ahead directly on the practical aspect, I would like to mention three terms. They are called as Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Now, many of you must have heard about Qi or Qi, the energy. In Chinese traditional medicine, they use this word Qi. So Qi is the force which controls everything. And then, according to Ayurveda, this is of three different sections. And the name is given based on their functions. So it is the same energy, but it has different role to play. And that's why the names are different. So we call them as Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Do you need to understand it? Not at all. You just know it because we are going to use these terms in next few minutes. Now, without again any delay, let's directly jump on the Ayurvedic view on nutrition. So Ayurveda says we are what we eat. Now, this talk is going to be very practical. It's not just something like a theoretical thing which you need to imagine, but something which is very practical, which is very tangible for you. How many of you have experienced that when you eat a bowl of salad or some fresh fruits, you feel very fresh, light, and energetic? But the other way around, you eat some heavy food, which is kind of junk food, and you feel exhausted and drained. Has it been your experience? If yes, you just write yes to me. Yes, 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 yes. I'm getting so many yeses. So it has been your experience. Then what it indicates? Again, a broader perspective about our own health. No, we just divide our knowledge into small little things. We see it from a small vision. We just need to see it from a broader perspective. Have you ever thought that where did this body grow so much? How did this body grow so much? When you were born, you were just few kilos, 3 kilos, 4 kilos. And then now you are 60, 70 kilo, 50 kilo, whatever it is. Where did it come from? It came from the food that we were eating, isn't it? So literally, we are what we eat. Does it make sense? Yeah. And it is so important because if you want to be healthy, we eat healthy food. If you eat unhealthy food, definitely you will not be healthy. Now it seems very much common sense, but then it doesn't come to our mind so easily. We are getting so much busy in our activities. So Ayurveda also says that each individual is different. Am I right? Your parents are different. Your place where you were born is different. The place where you were grown up is different. Your food is, the need of your food is different. The need of your body is different. The profession is different. Everything is different. So every person is unique. And that is why every person's diet needs are unique. Every person needs a unique diet. We cannot generalize that, yes, everybody should eat this food because it is healthy. Not really. Earlier, it was that kind of concept that, okay, this is the healthy food, you follow it, these many calories, these many fats, proteins, carbohydrates, that kind of thing. But now they have started realizing that it is not the thing for suitable for everyone, the same thing. So Ayurveda is tailor made. Ayurveda says that every person is different, so their food has to be different. And food is not just carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, and minerals. It is what you eat. No, it's not just counting. I remember when I was studying the preventive and social medicine, we had a textbook, and in that textbook, there was a topic on nutrition. And the first line was written that what we eat is food and not just the calories. Makes sense. It is such an eye opener thing. What we eat is food and not just the calories. So just counting calories is not going to make you feel uh, healthier. So we have to see what is a healthy way of eating. And just by following a healthy diet and healthy lifestyle, you can prevent many illnesses. I don't have to ask you if you agree with this or not, because I'm definitely sure that you will agree with this. So next, coming to how to get the best results from the diet that is based on Ayurvedic principles. Now, again, you may feel that, oh my God, now we are going into a topic which was unknown towards unknown. First of all, I have no idea what Ayurveda is. And then you are going to tell me how to get best result from the diet, which is based on the Ayurvedic principles, which I have no idea about. No need to worry at all. Ayurveda has been a part of your life without you knowing about it. I can prove it to you. Again, coming to the practical examples. Whenever you feel cold, or when you have cold, or it's winter outside, and then you're sitting in your home, you're feeling a bit cold, what would you prefer? A cold glass of or cup of lemonade, or a nice warm cup of ginger tea? Please write it down here. You would prefer ginger tea or cold lemonade in a cold winter? Warm ginger tea, of course. So you don't need to think about it. This is, yes, cold lemonade. Somebody would prefer, of course, because your body type is like that. If you have fire element in you, you would prefer lemonade. But mostly we prefer the ginger tea because it is warming up the body. I also like to give example of wild animals in my talks. Have you observed that wild animals, they eat only when they are hungry? They eat only as much as it is needed for them. They don't overeat. And they, they know how to heal themselves. Sometimes they fast. Sometimes they eat some particular kind of grass, and then they have a detox. So where does this knowledge come from in them? Have you ever thought about that? This knowledge is inbuilt in them by the nature, because nature takes care of everything. So nature has inbuilt, put this knowledge in us also, but nature has given us extra thing called as mind, which is active. Of course, in animals also it is active, but then we can think more. We have intellect, which is well developed. So the same intellect can guide us into right direction or wrong direction. And the senses, they get pulled towards the pleasure. And then it can lead us to make wrong decisions and having health problems. Yes, Marina is saying that she is a fire sign, and that's why she would choose cold lemonade. So what I was saying is that animals, they have this inbuilt knowledge. We also have it. The only thing is we have a tendency to forget it, but it is our instinct. If you are sitting on a beach in middle of the summer with having your sunglasses on, with sunscreen on, taking sun bath, there you will not ask for ginger tea. You would prefer a nice cold lemonade. This is again a natural tendency of the body. So we just need to listen to the body, and this is what Ayurvedic principles are. I usually say Ayurveda is not rocket science, it is a common sense. That's it. We just need to listen to. So what are the benefits of different food types? Again, a bit more holistic perspective, a bit more broader perspective. How do you define or how do you categorize the food? We usually say grains, vegetables, or fats, or seeds, nuts, fruits, whatever types we have, oils. But we can say like carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals, micronutrients, macronutrients, all that kind of things. Ayurveda divides food based on the tastes. Interesting, no? So the food could be sweet. It could be divided into these categories: sweet, sour, salty, then pungent, like chili or pepper, which is hot, then bitter, and astringent. Astringent is not very familiar taste for us, but if you have eaten a raw banana, which is still green, and if you try it, after eating it, it makes your mouth dry. It sucks your mouth inside. That is the astringent taste. So all the food items can be divided into categories like this. So Ayurveda says that you should include all the six tastes in your meal. Only then it is balanced. You must have, again, it is common sense. If you eat only sweet food, it will cause imbalances. If you eat only too much salty food, definitely it will cause imbalance. So we don't need to have extra sense for it. Common sense is enough. Then, how to make recipes balanced? Yes. How many of you like cooking? I myself love cooking, but how many of you like cooking? And how many of you cook your own meal? Sangeeta ji says yes. Marina says yes. Alina says yes. Lina, I do. Yes. So this is especially for you, those who love cooking and those who cook for your own meal. Yes, I cook my own food every day. Very good. Because then you choose what you want to put in your body. The food from restaurant, we don't know what ingredients are going in that. Of course, we can read it in the menu, but still, we have no idea what is the source exactly, or how the mood of the chef was when he was cooking the food. All these things, they do matter. See, if you are not happy while cooking the food is not going to give that taste. You must have experienced if the one who is cooking food for you, or if you cook food for someone, and if the one who is cooking is not happy, the food doesn't taste well. Hasn't it been your experience also? You yourself don't like the food which you cooked when you were angry or disturbed. So our feelings, emotions, they impact the food. Everything is connected. This is what Ayurveda has been saying, or the Vedas have been saying, and it is being proven now. That's what the metaphysics says. What does it say? That everything is vibrations. So if the vibrations are good, say good vibrations are affecting the food in a good way, and that's how we get good mood after that. But anyway, so how to make the recipes balanced? First of all, include all the six tastes in your meal. So when you're having meal, anyway, uh, sweet you can add something like a small piece of dessert, or grains are usually sweet, so you don't have to eat extra sweet. Make sure you're not using white sugar because it is not healthy. You know it. I don't have to explain it too many things about it. You can go through many articles on the internet. Then sour. So you can add some lemon juice on your vegetables. It gives that sour taste. Then salty. Of course, salt is needed. Then pungent. Of course, you have to use some spices. We are going to talk about the spices in upcoming few minutes. Spices like black pepper or cumin, these kind of things, or ginger, these are pungent spices. Then the bitter, again, spices are bitter. Green leafy vegetables, they are also having bitter taste, like in salads, the rucola. I don't know how it is called as in other parts, but here in Europe, we call it as rucola. That is bitter in taste. So that can be used. Arugula, yes, thank you. And then astringent, you might be thinking that to balance astringent, do I need to eat raw banana? Not necessary. You just eat pulses, legumes. These are having astringent taste. So whenever you are making a lentil soup, you are actually having astringent food. So make sure that you have some of all these tastes. Sometimes it is okay to eat only food with three tastes, four tastes, or five. But if you make it a habit that, okay, every day I'm going to eat only salted food or only sweet food, then definitely you will see that your body starts going out of balance. So include all the six tastes. Make use of balancing spices. So sometimes I was saying that it's okay to have three or four tastes. But if you want to add some more taste, for example, you are making something which is mainly um, made from vegetables which are bitter in taste, like spinach. Spinach is not very bitter, but because it is leafy, it goes into that category. Green leafy vegetables go into category of bitter. So how to balance it? You add some spices like cumin or turmeric, and that way you balance the tastes. Not just tastes, sometimes you have to balance their effect on the body. There are food items which make you feel very heavy for digestion. For example, chickpeas. If you have observed that when you eat hummus or anything which is made from chickpeas, it makes you feel a bit heavy. So how to balance it? Using the spices like cinnamon, clove, cumin, including these spices will make the food lighter for digestion. So that is how you can use, and not only these, you can use any other spices like rosemary or basil, whatever spices you you find in your kitchen. Smell it and feel, taste it a little bit. Is it hot? Is it bitter? And that way you can balance it. So you see, Ayurveda doesn't mean that you should eat tasteless food. Ayurveda makes very tasty food. What to add to your food to improve digestion? Now we have to see that, okay, we have good planned meal for us. Everything is balanced. If you cannot digest it or if you cannot absorb it, what is the use of that? So we have to work on our digestive system also, or capacity. So again, there it comes that you have to take the help from spices. So very interesting. If you have been already using spices, you would observe that spices, of course, they give some nice flavor and fragrance, but they also improve the digestive capacity. That is how spices have been a part of our cooking everywhere in the world. Again, this is Ayurveda. And we don't know that this is exactly is called as Ayurveda, but we have been following these principles through our intuition or through our instincts, I would say. So whenever you're making pizza, then you put some oregano on top of it or chili flakes, because cheese is a bit heavy for digestion, white flour is heavy for digestion, or wheat is heavy for digestion. So these spices, they make it light for digestion. And other example, I said chickpeas with cumin seeds. Or whenever you are making the spinach, you have to add a little bit of garlic in any form, either fresh or granules or garlic salt, because then it balances the bad effect of eating only garlic, eating only spinach. So that way you can take help from spices to improve your digestion. Again, some of you must be experiencing that when you eat beans, it creates bloating. The best way to deal with it is using some spices like fennel seeds or coriander seeds. These are the things which help to make sure that it doesn't create much of bloating. So the recipes usually, the traditional recipes are very much balanced. So we have to just follow our tradition. Then you have to add some oils like sesame oil, olive oil, or ghee if you know about it. Otherwise, sticking to any of these oils, coconut oil is also okay. Why do we need to add oil? Why does Ayurveda say that we need oil? Good question. Oh, it is said that fats are not so good. We should stay away from fats and cholesterol and all these kind of things. But if you see newer researchers saying that fat is rather necessary. If you eat less of fat, it can create more cholesterol, because then there are some mechanisms which gets triggered and then creates more accumulation of cholesterol. Somewhere there are researches which say that eating coconut oil, it actually brings down the levels of cholesterol. And then olive oil or the flaxseed oil, these are rich in omega-3, which is good for our heart. So according to Ayurveda, what happens? When you add oil, then it helps to absorb the fat-soluble nutrients. If you eat just food without the oil, then those nutrients, they are not digested or absorbed in the body. So they act as a vehicle for absorption of fat soluble nutrients. When it comes to uh, more specific spices for different doshas. So you know that I was talking about three energies, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So if they are balanced, we are healthy. When they go out of balance, we start getting problems. So we need to keep them in balance. So how to balance them? First, if you want to balance your Vata energy, now you don't need to again think that what is Vata, what is Pitta, why do I need to balance it? Don't worry at all. Just make sure that you use these spices when you're cooking your food. If you want to balance your Vata, then you use something like cumin and fennel. Somebody already wrote here that cumin and coriander and fennel seeds. Thank you, Christina. Then, if you want to balance your pitta, then you use cardamom and parsley. And if you want to balance your kapha energy, then you use spices like ginger and pepper. Okay, now we have some time. I will explain you in short about vata, pitta, and kapha. These three energies, as I was saying, are responsible for managing all the functions of the body. Vata energy is responsible for all the movements. Now, when I'm moving my hands, it's because of Vata. If you are noting down, that is because of Vata. If you're nodding your head, it's because of Vata. And if you're smiling now, it's because of Vata. So all the movements are controlled by Vata. So also the perception or the sensation. So all the sensory and motor functions of the body are controlled by Vata, basically the nervous system also. Then Pitta. Pitta is responsible for all the digestion and uh, metabolism. It also helps in all the chemical reactions. So anywhere there is transformation, that is because of Pitta. Now Vata is the air element. Now, if you see in the nature, again, Ayurveda is so close to the nature that when you see in the nature, or the clouds, they move because of the wind. The waves on the sea are also helped by the wind. So most of the movement that is happening in the nature is because of the wind. And then pitta is the fire element. So when you need to cook food, what do you need? You need heat. So this pitta or the fire element in the body is responsible for digestion and conversion. Now, what is the role of kapha? Kapha is the water element. What does water do? It brings lubrication. So wherever there is lubrication in our body, it's because of this kapha. Kapha also gives firmness and structure to your body. So when your kapha is strong, then you are strong. When your pitta is strong, your digestive fire is good, or your digestion is very good. When your vata is strong, all the functions of the nervous system are good. When vata goes out of balance, you start feeling gassy, too much of air element. You start feeling cracking in the joints, or you start feeling some problems related to the nervous system. When pitta goes out of balance, immediately your digestion starts getting affected. You see that you don't feel hungry, you feel full all the time, you cannot digest the food properly because of pitta imbalance. And because of kapha imbalance, then it can create again problems related to the water element in the body. So problems related to urinary system, too much of urination, too less, or infections, urinary infections, these kind of things. So we don't want to go into that direction yet. But I just wanted to give an overview of what Vata, Pitta, and Kapha is. What I said now is just the tip of the iceberg. There is a lot knowledge about these energies. And the more and more you understand them, the more it becomes easier for you to get control of your own health in your hands. For example, you know that, okay, if I travel too much, it makes my Vata energy go out of balance. And that's why I feel restless. That's why I cannot sleep at night. That's why I feel agitated, irritated. And then to balance it, I need to eat food which is warm, freshly cooked. and with the spices like cumin and fennel. And that is when you balance your vata, you feel more relaxed, you feel more centered. So this is how you can get control over your own health. So I will repeat again. To balance your vata, you can use spices like cumin, fennel, not these two, there are many other. But to balance pitta, which is the fire element, you need something to cool it down. So cardamom is cooling down, parsley is cooling down. And to balance kapha, then you can use some spices which are hot, like ginger and pepper. These things are helping you to balance your kapha. Now let's come to the common mistakes that usually are made in your diet and how you can correct them. So before we move ahead, I wanted to ask you, whatever I said till now, does it make sense? Or did it make sense? Yes, yes, sure, yes. And did it, to understand all these things, did you need to use special logic or something very special way of thinking? No, it was easy. Yeah, because this is pure common sense. But because we are getting so much busy or because of our stress, we cannot see the things as they are. And that is how Ayurveda helps. Uh, Marina, if you have any questions, can you put them in the Q&A? Because then I will go through them and then I will answer there. If you are getting any questions, write them there. Put them in the Q&A basket. So the first common mistake that happens or that is made is wrong combinations of the food. Now, when I said the mistake happens, there is again a difference between making a mistake and a mistake happening. Okay, we are going towards somewhere else, but again, I would like to make it a point here. When I'm going to talk about these mistakes, you should not blame yourself that, oh, I have been doing all these things wrong throughout my life. Don't worry. These are mistakes because you were not aware about it. If it would be a mistake or really, I would say that, yeah, lack of intelligence, if knowingly you are doing wrong. If you are doing wrong unknowingly, then it is really called as mistake, and mistake is a mistake. So that's why we are here, to know more about what mistakes we are making and then how to correct them. So first is wrong combinations. For example, fish and milk. According to Ayurveda, this is not a good combination. Now you may ask why. So there are many researches or many discussions saying that yes, it has some impact. Some say that it has no impact. But again, Ayurveda is something which is evidence-based, and second, it is time-tested. So for thousands of years, it has been followed without having any changes in it because everything is still valid. For example, I gave the example, you pour the water and it goes down. Of course, if there are strong winds, it will go up also, but in normal conditions. So these are time-tested things. And now more and more researches are being done to check whatever Ayurveda is claiming, is it right or not? And then it is being accepted again or proven again. In Ayurveda, we have something called as reverse pharmacology, where we already know that this herb is good for this organ, and then we check how it is working. That's it. We don't need to prove that, oh, is this herb going to work for this organ or not? Yes. So we have to make sure that we are not eating fish and milk together. One more thing I wanted to say, that many decades ago, it was not known that there is connection between the brain and the gut. Now there are courses on brain and gut, how to improve that communication. But thousands of years ago, Ayurveda has already said that there is a definite connection between brain and the gut. So before this um, realization or before the discovery that there is a definite connection between brain and gut, it would be considered as something which is a myth or which is false. But just because now we can see the connection and we say, yes, it is true. So like that, in future, sometime this will also come up that, okay, these uh, certain chemicals from fish and certain chemicals from milk, they are not compatible with each other. Same is then for black or green tea with cow milk. Then you know that there are tannins in the tea and then the milk, and then it has some uh, combination which is not good for the body. Ice cold drink with meal. So when you are eating food, there is a common tendency, not with everyone, but there is a tendency to drink a glass of cold water, ice cold water, or cold drink, or maybe carbonated or Coca-Cola or whatever it is. Now let's think it from a broader perspective. We are warm-blooded animals. That means the body temperature has to be maintained warm. And when we drink something cold, what happens is the temperature falls down. So the digestive system becomes cold. Now, when the digestion has to happen, the blood has to be in the intestines and near the stomach so that the digestion happens properly and nutrients are absorbed. And whenever there is cold, what happens? The blood vessels, they shrink. And when you drink cold water, what we are doing, you're actually stopping or reducing the blood circulation towards our digestive system. And then we are slowing down the digestion, slowing down the absorption also. Make sense? Yeah. So like that, there is one more combination which is commonly followed, like grains or especially oats with fresh fruits or berries or something like that. Again, what is wrong with it? The thing is, the fruits, they get digested earlier or quicker than the grains. Do you agree with me? It is your own experience. When you eat a bowl of, again, fruits, you will be hungry within 1 hour or 2 hours. But when you eat the same quantity of oatmeal or porridge, then you're not hungry within 1 or 2 hours. It takes longer time. Common sense says oats, they take more longer time to get digested as compared to fruits. Now you eat them together. What happens in the body? The fruits, they start getting digested earlier than the grains. So grains are incompletely digested. The fruits are completely digested. Body doesn't know what to do with it. The fruits, they start fermenting or decomposing there. So that is how we are slowly making some breaks in our health. We think that it is very healthy, but actually it is not. Just because when we see it from broader perspective. The next mistake that usually happens is wrong sequence of the food. Usually the sweets are eaten at the end of the meal, but according to Ayurveda, we should eat it in the beginning of the meal. There are two reasons for it. One reason is because sweets are very heavy for digestion. So when your digestion power is very strong, when you're hungry, and at that time, if you eat sweets, they get digested easily. And second reason is when you eat them at the end, you are putting extra burden on your digestive system. So that's why you should start with the sweets and not end your meal with the sweets. Then other mistake that usually happens is improper processing of the food. What do you mean by improper processing? Smoothies are fashion nowadays. I'm not against smoothie at all. No, it's not like that. But raw vegetables, and when they are eaten in the form of smoothie, what happens? How much vegetables you put in the smoothie when you make? Maybe a few carrots, a few pieces of celery, then spinach, whatever fresh vegetables you can get at that season. You put everything in the blender, you make a nice smoothie for yourself. What happens? First is the quantity of the food. So if I ask you to drink 1 cup of smoothie, you can easily drink it. But if I say that the same amount which went into the juice, you eat them as it is in the raw form, you would say, oh, this is too much for me, I cannot eat it. Do you agree with me? So what is happening? We are putting extra food. And second, when we eat raw food, there are exceptions. There are like salads, carrots, tomatoes, cherry tomatoes. There are certain things which can be eaten raw, but not all the vegetables should be eaten raw. Like broccoli, cauliflower, these things, they need to be cooked. Why? Because if you don't cook them, they are heavy for digestion and they can create bloating and gases. Maybe it has already been your experience. Raw food eaters, they usually suffer from this problem of bloating and gases. The reason is because the body cannot process it. So the vegetables that need to be cooked, steamed, or processed, they have to be processed and then you eat them. Because there are some compounds, yes, and Christina added, and when you don't chew it, then there is no enzyme production from the body. Definitely. Thank you, Christina. So this way, then we have to make sure that we cook the food and it becomes tasty, light for digestion. It gives you more energy. Otherwise, body has to put so much of energy to digest that food. Makes sense? And then leftover food that is reheated or sometimes it is eaten cold. So once you cook the food, it is best or ideal to eat it before it gets cold, or you should not reheat it because then some chemical structures, they change. So it's ideal if you cook the food and eat it immediately. I know it is not possible with the modern world. You have to go for different works and then you leave your home in the morning, you come back in the evening. You cannot cook fresh food. What you can do is you cook the food in the morning, you keep it in the some box, carry it with you, and then you can eat that food. It still will give you a lot of energy. And I have so many clients who made these changes in their life and they started feeling better energy, more energy, elevated mood, happy state of mind. Then the last mistake that we do is disrespecting your digestive capacity. Yes, this usually happens. People, they have a tendency to overeat just because the food is so tasty. You know that your stomach is full, but then you say that one last bite, just nothing happens, just little one last piece, and then you feel very full. You cannot even walk or sit comfortably, and then the digestion, the body has to put so much of effort again to digest that food. Then extreme fasting, total opposite side of the same. Extreme fasting is also not good because then it drains your energy. Moderate fasting is very good. It is necessary. It detoxifies your body. It brings lightness to your system. So moderate fasting is good, but extreme is not good. And uncontrolled snacking. Yes, those who are emotional eaters or stress eaters, you would really be now smiling now because it happens. So at certain time, whenever you are anxious, you want to eat food. That is uncontrolled snacking. So you are not letting the food to get digested properly. So before the previously eating meal is digested, you're putting more. And then if before that is digested, you're putting more. Before that is digested, more comes. And what happens to the system? It cannot digest, it cannot absorb, it gets so much confused. So we have to respect it. And then disrespecting the biological clock, like untimely eating. What happens is there is a natural clock, biological clock in our body, the circadian rhythm. Now we know about circadian rhythms, but again, this has been explained in Ayurveda thousands of years ago. At a particular time, you feel hungry. At a particular time, you feel sleepy. So there is a rhythm in the nature. There is a rhythm in our body also, and we need to respect it. So when it is time for eating, you eat. Just because you're busy, you should not skip your meal, or you should not delay it, or just because you have time early to eat and then later on you don't have time, you don't need to stuff the food just like that. Imagine what happens to the digestive system. Did you know that researchers have proven that At a particular time of the day, the digestive enzymes are secreted, the juices are secreted. And if you eat at the same day every day, then you are getting the maximum juices which digest the food properly. If you change the timing, then the body gets confused. It doesn't digest the food. Common sense again. And unmindful eating again. People, they talk while eating or watch TV or watch phone, and then they're not in the food. What do you think would happen to the food? It is not going to be absorbed in the body because the body cannot recognize it. Imagine you look at the food, the body is so, our nature has created this system so amazing that I get fascinated to look at it. The moment you look at the food, it starts uh, releasing the juices in the mouth. You think of something which is sour. What happens immediately? The mouth starts watering. So before the food enters your mouth, the digestion process is already started. Can you believe? Or the preparation for digestion is already started. This is why it is very important to involve all the senses when you are eating. Look at the food, how it looks like. Touch the food or taste it. Just sometimes we just stuff the food and we don't even taste how it is. So taste it, enjoy it, and then feel the temperature of that. When you're eating, is it cold, is it warm? Everything contributes to better digestion and better absorption. So these are few mistakes that we make, and then all this can be corrected to have a better digestion and better absorption. So if you have any questions, please put them in the question answer box. I see already some questions, and let's answer them. How do you know which tastes your body needs, especially when you are completely out of balance? At that time, your body tells that, okay, I am longing for sweet taste. That means sweet is missing in the body, but it's not always the case. Sometimes you're just anxious and you want to eat sweet. So you have to listen to your body in more in the state of calm, peaceful minds, calm and peaceful state of mind. So what you can do is you just go in the nature, sit there, relax. If you know meditation, you meditate, and then you will get to know that, okay, these are the things that my body needs, and then your body will tell you what is needed. Then I am apparently a kapha. My issue is that I like variety in my food and don't want to eat the same spices day in and day out. That's why I find it hard to stick to it. Is there a way around it? Yes, definitely. Again, Ayurveda doesn't prescribe the food which is very strict based on your body type. If you are Vata type of person, you can eat or you should eat the food which is balancing Vata, but it doesn't mean that you should not eat the food which is balancing Pitta and Kapha, because you have all the three. You need to make all the three balanced. If you focus only on one, then the other two can go out of balance. So you have to keep on changing it. So you don't need to fix to only one diet. Can you mix milk and fruit in a smoothie? How about adding just a little bit of spinach as the vegetable only? Please answer. Yes. Now let's think about it in a common sense. Milk and fruit. Now, usually most of the fruits that we eat have some kind of acid in it, and then acid with milk, we know what happens. So it's better not to mix them. If you want to add milk, you can add plant-based milk, oat milk, or the rice milk, almond milk, something like that. How about adding just a little bit of spinach? Yes, spinach tastes so good when it is eaten cooked, or you blanch it and then add it on your vegetables or in your pasta, and it tastes so good. So you eat it in that form, and if you want to eat it as a part of salad, the baby spinach, it's okay. That's all. If you have any other questions, yeah, Marina was asking me about peppermint. How does it work for pitta? Peppermint has cooling quality, but if you eat it too much, then it can make your pitta go out of balance. So peppermint is good. You can drink tea made from peppermint, 1 cup every day. It is good. So that way you can balance your pitta. I grew up drinking tea in the morning. However, it seems to bother me. Is there a solution or should I avoid it? Yes. So if it is bothering me, then you need to understand that it is creating some kind of imbalance. Your body is resisting to it. So what you can do is you don't need to force yourself to drink tea. Whenever you feel like you drink tea, otherwise drinking normal water is also enough. As soon as we get up in the morning, you should drink water. That is what Ayurveda says. The reason is because throughout the night, your body has been dehydrated. Meat, animal protein, okay. Yes, that I leave up to you because it's the choice, first thing. Second, what Ayurveda says is animal protein is heavy for digestion in any form, whether it is egg or meat or whatever. So it's better to avoid it because then other things are easier for digestion. They give you more energy. Surprising that tea cannot be mixed with milk, since in India that is the common way to drink it. Yes, in India it is common, but if you even already know that this is not the very much traditional Indian way of drinking tea. Yes. So if there are any other questions, I can see some more questions coming or not yet. Yes. Thank you for your questions because I feel more enthusiastic to give more knowledge. The more you ask, the more you get. I am celiac and I have intestine issues. How to find balance? It's not easy to mix food. Cream, it creates me a problem. Yeah. When you have yes, celiac disorder, then you have to be very careful with the food and you should go step by step. Make sure that you are not eating anything which is heavy for digestion. So fruits and vegetables which are suitable for you and which are seasonal. You have to see what suits you the best. You eat, feel, and then you decide. And don't restrict yourself to any particular group of food. You include the things which are suitable for you. And that way, of course, using spices will be tremendously helpful while cooking. So what about drinking ginger tea and having hot flashes due to menopause? Yes, they are very much connected, very much connected. Ginger tea or any alcohol, wine especially, coffee, these things, they trigger hot flashes. I use Pudin Can you explain the properties? Yeah, Pudin is made from some herbs which helps to have a better, not better digestion, but it helps to relieve the bloating and gases. But it's not necessary to eat it every day. Once in a while is okay. Now I have so many comments here. There are so many plant-based proteins like algae and yeah, or you can go for normal plant-based proteins like peas and legumes, that kind of things. Yes, vegan food is amazing. How long do you wait to see if eating food is working for you? Huh. Sangeeta, it could be, there are both effects, immediate and long term. So immediate effect is like if somebody gets bloating by eating big kind of beans, the red beans or whatever, the beans which are big. And if you shift to mung beans or lentils, the split lentils, the red lentils, then you will see that the bloating is lesser. Or when you start cooking your food using spices, you feel better digestion. So you see immediate effect. But when you make changes, then over a period of time, you see that your energy levels are better. If your body needs to lose weight, you will lose weight. If your body needs to gain weight, it will gain weight. So both are possible or visible. Do you advise getting a blood test to determine food allergies? Medical communities are mixed on this. Yes, I will. The time is running. I will quickly explain you or mention one experience that I had. Very interesting. It just stayed with me. I was still a student and having an internship with an Ayurvedic doctor. She's very famous there. And then she had a client from US. I don't know which place in US, but they were Indians, and they moved from India to US. And then the child was, I think, 6 7 years. He had food allergies. He couldn't even eat normal food like rice or lentils or anything like that. So he could eat only limited food. So he came back here to India to see this Ayurvedic Vaidya or doctor, and she suggested some treatments. So he underwent that Ayurvedic treatment, and then she started introducing the food slowly. So then he started eating the food and digesting it without any allergic reactions. So slowly, slowly, he could eat almost the normal food by the time he was here in India. And then they went back to US. They went to the doctor and they said that, now we took some Ayurvedic treatment and he's feeling well, he can eat everything and anything. The doctors got scared. They said, oh my God, without checking your blood, how can you start eating? It could be dangerous. And the doctor said, let's make the tests again. And they made the test, and the child was still allergic to all those things, but still there was no allergic reaction. So there are different opinions about it. You just see what is, we have to have a balance between both modern medicine and what our body says or everything. Legumes and grains, no for my body. Lectins are its enemy. Yeah, but if you use spices like cumin, coriander, or fennel seeds while cooking it, then it can help you. And soak your legumes before you cook them. I have been an almost lifetime vegetarian and vegan for past 5 years now. I cannot emphasize enough the power of plant-based diet on humans. Thank you. Is asafoetida good for you and helps with bloating when making chickpeas? Yes, definitely. I do, and it helps. I have to avoid all lectins too. Yes, you don't need to be so much strict about these things. There are ways you can slowly include these things. Legumes are pulses. Yeah. So uh, let me check one last question. Any advice to avoid hot flashes then? I don't drink any coffee nor alcohol. Yes, yeah. There are some Ayurvedic herbs or teas, natural herbs which you can take help from, like red clover and primrose, evening primrose. These herbs, they can help you. Good. So that's all, because we have to respect the time. And it was so good to have you, to interact with you. And I hope this session has given you some idea. And if you want to reach to me, you can search for the website. It's available on the platform. Or I will just say to you, it's very simple. It is called as Shri SRI. Shri SRI. I will type it in the chat box so that you can have it. Shri tattva.eu. And again, in the description of the event that you had or have, you will find the ways to reach to me, and then I can answer even more questions there. Or if you have any personal things, we can all discuss all those things there. So let me see. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. It was so interesting. What a wonderful talk. I have learned so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you all for really participating. Because you participate, you get more. So have a good evening, afternoon, or whatever rest of the day that you have. And namaste.